getting back to Seattle, Niner fans want to know about this team. How bad is their defensive line?
It struck me, everyone in my mentions was throwing out that, yeah, we're going to be able to run all over them, that this sets up perfectly. And I think people assume that because of that lopsided time of possession. But as I dug into it, it's really not as terrible as one would think. What they're actually really bad against is against the pass. And looking at passing yardage, the number of yards that they've given up relative to the number of yards they've thrown for themselves, that's what's really skewed. They've given up almost 50% greater yards receiving to opponents as opposed to what they've been able to put up themselves. And so it strikes me that this sets up to be a game where you may want Jimmy to throw more passes, but I am a little PTSD about that when we shift that game plan is when we tend to get out of whack, when we tend to get into a very pass-heavy mode and forget what our identity is. So it sets up for one of my fears that we will come out, pass the ball more than we need to, turn the ball over more than we should, and not run the ball down their throats as I think we can.
I think the best game plan, defensive game plan we've seen against Kyle Shanahan throughout the years is what the Cardinals do, Vance Joseph. And I think what Pete Carroll did earlier this season, which is first drive, just show sort of like a specialty defensive front that is totally sold out to stop the run. Like hey, we're going to play 6 defensive linemen because we don't respect your passing game. And you just make a statement. You're not going to run on us today. And Kyle will look at that and say, okay, well, we have to pass. And he will. And what you can do is get the 49ers to abandon their identity. And although Kyle say like, well, we had to, and the passing worked, and they just have to execute and yada, 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 the Niners don't execute passes as well, from the blocking to the throwing to the catching, the whole thing. And so that worked for Arizona twice. They showed it, and the Niners abandoned their running game and lost, even though Jimmy had a good game in the second. He played well. It was Ayuk who fumbled and Kittle who fumbled.
Right.
And then also in this game, like against Seattle, they came out with a heavy run front. The Niners basically passed every single play, had a beautiful touchdown drive on the first possession of the game, but it was a lot of dropping back. Jimmy Garoppolo just happened to get hit, happened to get hurt, and the game went to crap, and they lost. So be interesting to see if Seattle can get the Niners to blink. It's kind of how I think of it. Like, are you going to blink? Because then there's no reason for the Niners to abandon what they do against this crap team. I'm sorry, they're a crap team.
There's not. And I would say it's almost as if opposing coaches bait Kyle into that approach, because he doesn't respond with, oh, well, they're in this front and we can't. What happens in his mind is he sees an advantage. He sees, oh, well, the way to attack this defensive front is, and then he abandons, right? He abandons the run. And to me, again,
let's take what the defense gives you, but what you're doing is allowing the defense to dictate. To you, and you need you as an offensive play caller. You need to dictate to the D. You can't let them take away your strength. You can't let them ever do that.
That's right. If it is your strength, then you stick to it. You dictate to them what they need to do in response to it. I thought against Minnesota, Kyle was headed down that path, and then Jimmy woke him up by throwing that interception. And Kyle was like, oh, right. Let me get back to the run. That was almost a fortunate interception that we threw because it brought us back to the run game.
That's true. Absolutely. When he was calling that drive, I'm like, okay, the Niners are going to lose this game. They're doing it again. And then he threw the pick and Kyle got back. It's like, okay, all right. Well, I wonder what their record would be like right now if they had done this all season. I still don't really understand what the Niners were doing in September and October, but we're in December now. And it's important to remember that this Seahawks D-line is not that bad. The Seahawks do have an ability to play the run well, the Niners run game well, and to force them into plan B, which is Jimmy win the game. So curious to see if they can do it again.
They don't get after the passer all that well, but to your point of where we struggle, our offensive line can make defensive lines look a little bit better when they're having a bad game.